Thank you for listening to the BJJBrick podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJBrick podcast. This is episode 106. My name is Byron. I'm here with my buddy Gary. Gary.
Hello.
Hello, Gary.
I'm here.
We have a great part 2 episode here with Jonathan Thomas. So we were all lucky that the interview with Jonathan Thomas went long, and we were able to make 2 episodes out of it. So you get twice the amount of material from one interview.
The gift that keeps on giving. So 2 times Jonathan Thomas. Can't beat that.
Yeah, and if you haven't, if you want to beat that, you can go add the 3rd time, which happened earlier. So, but we've actually interviewed him. I think episode mid-30s. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And
well, actually, now Jonathan Thomas has been interviewed the most on our show. He's got 3 shows. That's a record in our 106 episodes.
Bam! There we go, setting records.
Yep, he's got just under 3% of our episodes.
I really like the way he breaks things down, and I think that might be one of the reasons why we've had multiple guests come on more than once. But he's real good at explaining things and explaining what he's thinking, and he's real analytical, and so his thoughts are well put together, and I think that helps out us as an audience and as students of jiu-jitsu learn more about what's going on. You know, he's not telling us how to do techniques necessarily, over a podcast, but he's really explaining like the how and the why behind things sometimes. So I really appreciate that, and I think that's why he's one of our more common guests, I would say.
Yep. And if you ever get a chance to train with him, we had a seminar with him, and it was phenomenal. It was years ago, but we learned so much, and I just remember Byron and I just looking at each other and saying, wow, how much we learned. So if you ever have a chance to get to train with him, do a seminar with him, do not pass it up. If you think you're learning from these podcasts, times that by 1 trillion is what you're learning.
I remember learning a lot about recomposing guard and stuff, but what sticks out the most in my mind was he rolled with basically everybody who wanted to roll with him before the seminar even started. And he kicked my butt a couple times pretty good, so I really enjoyed that, and that's a good that got me to pay attention a little bit more, I think, in the seminar. Like this guy just handed my butt to me a couple of times. I better listen to what he has to say.
Definitely.
But that's coming up here in a little bit. If you want to make sure you're consistent with your consumption of the BJJBrick podcast, you could go to
Wait, I like that. Consistent with your consumption. That's pretty good there, Byron.
Got a little ring to it there.
Yeah, we might have to use that as our quote for next week.
There we go. If I say it too fast, I might get jumbled up like I do half the time anyway.
Yeah,
but,
well, you need to be consistent with your consumption, so you can't jumble it up.
That's true. But if you want to be that way, I'm not going to say it again. You can hop on to our online page on the internet there at BjjBrick.com or our Facebook page online. And you could put your name and email address in there, and we will send you an email every Tuesday giving you the lowdown, telling you what happened this week on the BJJBrick podcast. And it's also got links to all the show notes, nice and convenient, delivered free of charge to your inbox weekly.
And speaking of that, if you want to be consistent with some extra consumption, remember it's extra consumption, you can support the show by checking out Byron's audiobook. It's called Your First Year in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's kind of a roadmap, a kind of a guideline to help you through your first year, which traditionally could be the hardest year, and because we want everybody to keep training. You make it past the first year, there's a good chance you're going to keep going. It's only $11.99. I guess Byron has been getting great reviews on it. A lot of people have really enjoyed it, so definitely check it out. You'll learn a lot, and actually, as Byron said earlier here today, we sold a good bit this week. So great job, Byron. Yeah,
it's been a record-selling week so far. A couple of books. We're not making hundreds of dollars or even 50s of dollars, but we're selling a couple books every week. It seems like, and it's starting to build a little bit. And the show is basically paying for itself, which is nice. It's not really paying for our time yet, is it, Gary? But it's a labor of love for our time. So,
Well, I will tell you this, Byron. It's just fun doing this. I could care less if I ever get money for it. I know you put in twice as much time as you do. So if we ever make money, it's going to you.
Well, all right, Gary. We'll see what happens, and I know that your
I'll become greedy.
Your input is needed on this show, and so is your co-host. And I got to keep you happy. So we'll see. I think we'll figure out some fun stuff to do this year, maybe next year, and kind of reward ourselves a little further down the road. But the audiobook is a great way to support the show here, and of course, stay tuned to the end of the episode, and you get to hear about Gary's audiobook. I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, but right now it's late October and Halloween is around the corner. And I'll tell you what, Gary is gearing up with this audiobook. It's got a Halloween theme, and you just guys get ready for this. It's right in time for Halloween.
Some people have been calling me Ghoulish Gary here in the last couple of weeks, and that may have something to do with my audiobook.
You finally heard it. I thought that had been kept under wraps. Everyone's talking about behind your back about that, but I guess you finally heard that, huh?
Yeah, I have very good ears. This week, we have another great quote, but we're going to get off the mat and we're going to go to the football field. We have a quote this week from the talented quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, Brett Favre, or as they called him on Something About Mary, Brett Favre. He's got a great quote, and here it is. Talented players don't always succeed. Some don't even make the team. It's more what's inside. Once again, talented players don't always succeed. Some don't even make the team. It's more what's inside. And man, that quote really, really speaks truly. How many people have you seen very, very talented, not just on the mat? It can be in business, it can be in basketball, it can be in football, but they don't work hard. They're not maybe team players, and it just never comes off. They never really make it. And I've seen the opposite. The person who doesn't have the most athletic ability, but works harder than everybody, very efficient, effective with his time, studies, eats well, trains, does cross trains, basically gets on the mat, drills, and even without being the most talented, that person can be on the top of the podium there.
Yeah, this is an interesting quote, and I've got to. I've read it a couple of times as you read it, and I've kind of looking at it, and to me, sometimes it's telling me like there are talented people that don't make it. And I'm trying to think about why that would be. And I've seen it before in jiu-jitsu specifically, because I see more jiu-jitsu than anything else, I guess. But you see somebody who comes in and they pick up jiu-jitsu like very easily. And that's, I don't know why that is for some people. And some people kind of struggle with just picking up the basic movements and the flow of things. But some people pick it up pretty easily, and they maybe get their blue belt pretty quick, or start getting stripes pretty quick, or just get the sensation of being successful pretty quick at jiu-jitsu, quicker than their peers have succeeded. And then they hit the first couple of bumps in the road, or things don't go so easy, or techniques aren't working so good, or they can't quite make that next level, and they get frustrated, and sometimes they quit right there because they're not used to dealing with that adversity, versus somebody who has been coming in and they're constantly dealing with their own personal failures, and they get through them. They're mentally tough, and oh yeah, well that didn't work today. I got submitted 9 times in the kids class. That's better than 10 times, I guess. And they keep coming back, and they hang in there. That person, further down the road, this is the cliche of this is a marathon, not a sprint. That person will ultimately be successful, versus the person who dabbles in it for a year or a few months or whatever, it does really well, and then has a little bump in the road and quits. That's not a successful version of jiu-jitsu in my mind.
Yeah, Byron and I were talking about a guy we train with sometimes on Saturday morning, and he trains once a week, doesn't really get a lot of instruction, the one day a week he trains just kind of open mat, but everybody works with him a little bit. And Byron and I were talking about last week, he's probably been going 9-10 months by now. And we were just talking about that last Saturday, about how much he's improved. This is a guy, he's going to show up every time he can, and really doesn't have a lot of time. But most people who could only train once a week might just come once and never come again. This guy here, he shows up religiously every week, and even though it's just one time, I've seen so much improvement, especially in the last couple months, and he just didn't give up. He just keeps going, and you can tell from his mental makeup that he's not going to quit. He really enjoys it, and he has fun. But it's just neat. Even somebody training as little as that, if he does not quit, he's going to get better.
Yeah, and even when you're training once a week and you have a bad day, the week was bad, and then so you could easily go 13 or 14 days without having a good roll or having a good experience on the mat, opposed to training several times a week when you could erase that memory sooner on. So that's really impressive that even those part-time people that are able to just get in when they can, and when they can may not be that much. Just stick with it. Just trust me. You're slowly, getting better, and you're getting somewhere. It may not always feel like it. You have a bad day. It turns out it feels like a bad week. You have 2 of those in a row, and it feels like you're going backwards. But ultimately, this is a process of learning that takes time and spending time on the mat there and getting good coaching. So I don't know. The combination of everything, just talent is overrated. Going. Yeah. Just sticking with it is. I'd rather have somebody who sticks with it than has somebody who walk in and is talented but doesn't have that heart.
Yeah. And I can say when I first started, Byron started like a week or 2 after me, but he caught on a lot quicker than I did. I was kind of a slow learner. And for 2 years, Byron just pummeled me. And there weren't a lot of people where we trained jiu-jitsu, so I got tons of rounds with Byron, and I just got beat. But I never got upset. I just kept going and going and going. And one day I was like, I'm just going to get better. I'm training with somebody who's better than me. I'm just going to keep getting better. And it would have been easy for me to quit. So many days I'd come home and, people would be like, how'd you do? Byron submitted me 47 times. But I just kept going. I'm very determined. And I'm a guy who's not going to quit. And thanks to Byron. Byron was kind of the guy that really... You don't know this, Byron, but
oh boy, because
of how you got better quicker, I really would always try to keep up to you. I was kind of always trying to get to your level.
I think that's very common, and I've done that with you too. Like anybody who starts jiu-jitsu at a similar time than you kind of compare yourself, and that's not really fair to you or them. But
it sure wasn't fair to me the way you were progressing.
But it just happens. It's a gauge to see how you're doing, and people can progress at different levels. So don't take that as the right thing to do for yourself. But I think it's a natural thing to do. And
it is a natural thing to do, but it's all about having fun.
Yeah.
You need to have fun and go back and remember it's a sport. We're here to have fun.
That's right. This is an optional sport that you're doing. You're taking time out of your busy day.
Wait, this is optional?
Yeah, it's not required anymore.
My dad makes me do
it. That might be the case for a few of our listeners, I suppose. Well, that was a nice quote there by who was that quote by?
Brett Favre. Brett Favre, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
And what kind of sport did he play in? I forget, Gary.
American football.
Oh, nice. Even through in the more specific. Okay, because I'm not much of a sports guy, so these obscure athletes that I don't know much about, they don't. I actually know who he is. So anyway, Gary.
But stay tuned next week because we have a quote from Hillary Clinton.
Oh boy!
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Gary, we got to figure something out there. The music is telling us to keep the show moving along, and the next thing, I guess the music tells us to bring along, is the article of the week. We've got Coach Valerie Worthington wrote an article called 10 Ways to Inject Positivity into Your BJJ Community. So,
and what else is better than injecting positivity?
Yep, you got it. It's like, Thanksgiving's around the corner and you get that little plunger with the juice in it and put it in the turkey.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Except for
positivity.
Except for turkey juice, it's positivity going into your jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah, I don't think that's positivity for the turkey. But it is for the pilgrims.
Yeah. But I think even you could read into the. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you could read into the title, into your BJJ community, not just the BJJ community. Each person, I guess, if you think about it, has their own community. You know, it's mostly centered around the people that you train with on a daily basis, and then it'll branch out to people that you have trained with. And then, you know, Gary and I like to feel like we're part of your community because we communicate, you know, with you on a weekly basis, I guess. Hopefully you listen to us on a weekly basis. So I think we like to be part of your community, and then anybody else online who you may follow, and then, of course, the top athletes that you're following and the big coaches and stuff like that. But so everybody has kind of their own community, and you could change this in any, you know, you could remove somebody from this community of yours, or add somebody to it, or somebody, you know, obviously somebody's in your community making you mad all the time. But everything I say upsets you, well, then take me out and stop listening to the show, or just listen to Gary's portion of the show, I guess. But
yeah, and I would really appreciate that if you would mute out Byron's section and just listen to mine. That would really really make me feel proud.
We should do a Gary only show.
That would probably be the least listened to show ever, except my parents, my wife, my kids, and my two friends.
I still want to be part of it. I'll just have to mute myself to where it'll be like entire segments of no sound, and then you come back and talk about what I just said.
Talk right over you.
This is a terrible idea. So we have 10 tips here, and really there's about 11 or 12 in reality. Gary, do you have a favorite or two that you want to highlight?
You know, I like number 2. Think before you press send. And think about, let's say on social media, somebody posts something and you may not agree with it. You may think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, or it kind of makes you upset. But think before you send that out, before you send your reply out. You know, like Valerie says, do you really need to flame him or her? Do you think that flaming that person is going to bring about a change? You know, craft a good argument if you're going to say something. So I always think that's very important. Instead of right when you read something, when your emotions are high, don't react right away. Wait a little bit, think about it before you reply. And a lot of times that's going to get your point across better. And to have to open mind, a good society, healthy debate is a cornerstone for a healthy community. So let's think before we send.
That's a good one, Gary. I'll go up to rule number 1 on the list here. Employ the golden rule, which is like the classic thing to do. The golden rule is treat other people how you'd want to be treated. I'd like to change it, and it's been I guess I invented this, but really treat people how they want to be treated. You know, I know when I roll with Gary, you know, I would like Gary to roll, you know, pretty hard with me, and I know he wants me to roll pretty hard with him. Now, if I get a new person, I got to treat them a little differently than I'm going to treat Gary. I mean, they're going to think I'm a total jerk if I go in there and I try to do my absolute best against a new student. But Gary, he wants my best, and that's why he's, you know, why we're rolling this day. So really treat people how they want to be treated or how they should be treated, and that goes a long way with making that personal connection with somebody, and invite and being positive on a one-on-one basis, which is important.
You know, another one I like is number 7. Be willing to invest in the new members of your academy. And, you know, we're talking about positivity in our community. We need to grow our community, get more people involved in jiu-jitsu. And a lot of times we all got our own cliques in the gym. We got our own little groups we hang out with, kind of just like society. And I've seen sometimes where the new person comes in, or somebody even just coming into the academy to watch and think about signing up. It's up to all of us to greet that person, to make that person feel welcome, to say hi, to shake their hand. It can be as little as a smile, just acknowledging that person. But you think about when you first started training, it's tough to walk through that door. It's tough to get on the mat. And if we make it easier and make people feel more comfortable, that person is going to like the sport better, going to tell more people about it. It's going to be a positive experience, and we're going to grow our community. So I really like that number 7.
Number 9, I think speaks to everybody. I hope it does anyway. Number 9, have fun on the mat. I mean, come on. We're here to do jiu-jitsu, and that should be fun. If you can make jiu-jitsu fun, if you can get out there and enjoy getting beat, if you can get out there and enjoy getting the better of somebody, and you can enjoy the people you're training with, that's a person who is going to get good at jiu-jitsu over the long run. If it's fun for you, you'll be good at it. You may not be good at it today, you may not be that great tomorrow, but in the long run, if you can go there and have a good time, and you really enjoy stepping on the mat, taking time out of your busy day, you're missing other opportunities, you're missing things at work you could be doing, you're missing something with your family, but if you go there and you have fun, that draw will be there, and you will continue to get better at jiu-jitsu, having fun on the mat, and make it a conscious effort. It seems like for me, in the warm-up section, a lot of times at Fox Fitness, we do like a little jog and some different things around the mat, and that's kind of for me when it clicks in my head, like I'm here to have a good time, and a lot, it kind of. Because I'm getting to the gym, I'm driving, I'm getting out, I'm getting changed, and that's none of that's really that fun, And once I get warmed up, it's like, yeah, here we go, and I see everybody, and just that feeling that we're gonna have a good time tonight. This is gonna be fun. So make it a mental note that you're here to have a good time, and it may not seem like it's gonna help you get better at jiu-jitsu today, but in the long run, it will help you get better at jiu-jitsu. Having a good time, enjoying it.
Yep, if you're enjoying it, you're not going to quit. Just kind of what we were talking about a little bit ago. You'll keep going. But there's actually 10. We only went over a couple of them, so definitely check them all out. It's a really great article by Valerie Worthington. We've talked about a couple of articles before. She's got some great stuff. So awesome article, 10 ways to inject positivity into your BJJ community.
Yep, and that is on breakingmuscle.com. Valerie Worthington is also part of Groundswell BJJ community, and speaking of that, later on, not the next episode, and not even the episode after that, but in the future, Emily Kwok will be on the show, and she's also part of Groundswell. So that will be the interview's already happened. Very, very good interview, so just look forward to that, and just one of her fellow coaches and part of that team there. So anyway, we'll put a link to the article on the show notes. Check it out. There's a lot more that we left out, obviously.
And check it out. But I think it's that time, Byron. I think we should listen to part 2 of Jonathan Thomas.
Here we go. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
In an effort to blend traditional martial arts with BJJ, he was successful in breaking 5 cinder blocks with his triangle choke. He put Frankie Valli in a triangle, and he screamed for Sherry Baby. In an effort to fight crime, he likes to check in on Facebook when he is in a bad neighborhood.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
I never think that I never think in terms of I want to do this pass.
Yeah.
I always think in terms of where am I? What do I do? So to run you through a match, in my what my mindset would be going through a match. I don't think about this; it happens naturally. But it's useful to understand it because it guides you in how to develop your game. So let's start with standing and there's no grips. Okay, so we're both standing and there's no grips. Okay, so this is like the first mini battle. The first mini battle is the grip battle. Okay, so I'm trying to establish a grip. He's trying to establish a grip. Right. So let's say, just for sake of ease, I grab the lapel and jump to my guard. Right. So I just jump out. I shoot my feet up in the air. I'm holding the lapel. You can do it with any grip you want. Like maybe you like to jump close guard with an elbow and whatever. Yeah. So you try to assert your position on the guy. That's a mini battle, right? You can define that with wins and losses. If I get my position, I win. If he gets the position he prefers, he wins, right? So sometimes there's a mutually agreed position. Like he likes to pass De La Riva, I like to play De La Riva, maybe, right? So boom, we land in De La Riva. Okay, so now I have his ankle and his collar, okay? And I have my De La Riva hook in, and then he chooses what he does, right? So then there's a mini battle here. Either his knowledge is better at passing De La Riva than mine, or my knowledge is better at sweeping or submitting from De La Riva than his, right? So then let's say he passes my guard to side control. Okay. So then either my knowledge is better at escaping side control in the particular manner that he's holding, or or he's better at, finishing submission, or, like progressing position, like mounting or taking my back from there. Right. So if I escape and get back to close guard, either he's better at opening close guard, or I'm better at submitting or sweeping from close guard. Right.
Yeah.
If we separate and I'm sitting up and he's standing, like kind of like Marcelo Garcia sits up, either I'm better at hitting a sweep or setting up a position. So if I'm sitting up and there's no grips and he's standing, I could either say try to entangle him in a new grip, like I could jump to De La Riva and tie him up in De La Riva, or I could try to say hit an arm drag and take his back immediately, right? So you see, like basically everything is just a micro categorized position, right?
Yeah.
So. And when you approach it that way, to me, that's the only way to have linear progression in your game. If you want to control it, you can train chaos, like just go crazy and see what happens, and you will develop a game. But I just don't think you can control it as much. You know, I think that a lot of guys train that way, and just by numbers, if you have like millions of people training that way, one or two are going to stumble into a really good pattern that works well for them, but they're not going to understand how they ended up there, and they can't teach it well, right? Versus if you use the linear process, you can everything I do in my game, everything. If you ask me after the match, I'll be able to tell you exactly what I did and why, right? Not everyone's that way, right? So I just think that guys who don't train that way, who end up really good, I think that they are lucky. Because if you look at it, I shouldn't say they're lucky. I mean, they're working really hard.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at it this way, like, think about the thousands of guys who are training full time. Okay. I know guys, I'm not going to name names, but I know guys who train 2 to 3 times a day, every single day. And they train so hard. They put all their heart into it. Some of the guys even use steroids, train 2 to 3 times a day, every day. And they do everything right. They eat healthy. They do everything right. And then they get killed by some guy who trains half as hard as them, right? And to me, that's just luck. The guy worked harder, but the other guy luckily stumbled into a good pattern. And I just think it's like, if everyone's training really hard, some people are going to kind of, if you're not taking a scientific approach, some people are going to kind of stumble into a pattern that really works well for them, and some people are going to get stuck in a pattern that does not work well, or their brain doesn't pick it up naturally. So for the people that aren't picking it up naturally, they need a scientific approach, because obviously naturally is not working for them.
How would somebody, let's say a blue belt or a purple belt, approach their game and look at it from a scientific eye and try to figure out what they need to do differently or what they need to work on, develop their strengths?
Yeah, I would say the easiest thing is just separate, and it's actually way more fun to train this way, and it's just more positive, and it makes you take loss much better as well. Is you need to just start positional training, mini like positions, and just don't worry about your overall game. Just worry about mini positions. Your game will come together eventually, and when it does, you'll be way better than everyone else. So like what I would suggest is, like, let's say you can pick something. Usually you pick the most relevant thing, right? So like if you can't escape side control, that's probably a good place to start. But let's say, I'll just pick something random. Say you're not good at opening close guard. Grab a partner, start starting in close guard, and start fighting. And then if you can get out of his close guard, find someone whose close guard you can't get out of. Start fighting in his close guard. Every time you open it, stop. Every time he sweeps or submits you, stop. Go back and just keep training that. If you need help, go online, watch competition footage of high-level competitors stuck in close guard and watch how they get out. If there's a particular sweep you keep getting hit with, watch high-level competitors and try to see how they deal with that sweep. And just spend, like a week or two only when doing extra training, positional sparring, starting in close guard. And by the end of it, you're going to be really good at opening close guard. You may suck at getting out of spider guard, but you're going to be really good at getting out of close guard, right? That problem is solved, right? Now, maybe, it's like, I like to give myself an imaginary ranking on each thing. So maybe you get your close guard opening to an 8, right? So then you're like, oh, it's pretty good there, but my spider passing's a 2. So then you go to your spider passing. So you have the guy start in spider guard, and you start sparring and fighting from there until you can do it with resistance in sparring, right? Then eventually you patch that hole, right?
Yeah.
And it takes time, but eventually you get there and you will patch all the holes, but the problem is people sometimes don't like that. They're like, oh man, but like, that just seems so crazy to like have an answer for every situation. I'd rather, isn't there just like some pass I can just use so that I can just use that pass? And it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just, that's the way it is. I mean, there is no shortcut to greatness. If you want to have really awesome jiu-jitsu, like you're going to have to do something extra, right? So there is no easy way to get around it. You just got to learn what to do in all the positions, and it takes time. But it's also fun. And also it makes it easier when you lose. Like I can fight a purple belt and I can get caught in a submission, and after the match I'm not just like, damn it, like what's going on with my game? I suck. Like that doesn't ever happen to me. Like because I can realize, oh, he had a really good lasso and I just he was doing something, I just didn't know how to get out of that. And then like if I was in his daily heave, I would have passed him 25 times. But his lasso was so good, I couldn't get out of it. And when you do that, it's very easy. I mean, sometimes I fight guys who are like really good and I pass really easy. And then I'll fight someone who's not nearly as good, but they have like one little kind of odd thing that they do maybe in like their daily heave or their lasso that makes it a lot harder for me. And I actually can't pass them as easily as like a high level guy, maybe, And because I look at jiu-jitsu the way I do, like I don't take those things personally. I can very easily just go, oh, okay, well, I just struggle in this one spot with a guy. I mean, I've had matches where I roll with people, and one day I train with them, and I pass them, like, no exaggeration, like 10, 15 times, right? And then, like, the next training session, they make one change on how they're holding the lasso or something, and then all of a sudden it's like, I can't pass in, like, one day, Because in sport competition jiu-jitsu, it comes down to grips so much that knowing how to get out of a grip is so essential that, I mean, it can really mess you up.
Yeah. So, I mean, just that little tweak, they went from, about a 4 on your scale to jumped up to an 8 or a 9 and
yeah.
At least
and
versus
I think,
the way you pass.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. With the numbers, and I think that's very useful to just kind of visualize it that way. But I mean, in reality, it could be more like, you're a 9 at passing this position, and the guy's like a 5 at holding it, but he's got some weird trick, that like is kind of like funky, and you have never seen it, and you can't really solve it. It's like imagine the first time Leandro fought Keenan, and he got put in the worm guard, right? And he had no idea what it is, right? It's just like, well, you're gonna get creamed. You've never been in it. There's nothing you can do. No amount of anything else you did is gonna help you in that position. It's like it doesn't matter how good you are at passing the spider guard. You can't solve a Rubik's cube. It's a separate problem.
Yeah, that's. Can you remember the last time you were confused in a match? In which you did?
In a competition match or in the gym?
In the competition. Somebody brought something and you're like, okay, I don't recognize this, and how you proceeded.
Let's see. The first time I fought Anders Bernovsky, I had never really been put in that lasso De La Hiva before, which is like I should have been studying more and just kind of been aware of that position. But the first time I got put there, I was like really like I knew it was coming, so I kind of prepped for it, but I didn't have enough time to prep for it to really know what to do. And then I was stuck in the thing the entire match. I lost by an advantage. He held me in it the whole time. There was a point where he swept me, and he could have come on top. And I was like, okay, if he comes on top, I'll try to submit him from my guard. And Lloyd Irvin was like, no, stay down. So then he didn't go on top. He took the advantage and then kept me in the position the rest of the match, and then I lost by an advantage. And then I fought him like 3 or 4 months later, and I had studied the position that I passed his guard. But since then, it happens in the gym often. But in competitions recently, I haven't had it happen. No, it's certainly important. I mean, that's harder to do at at blue and purple because you have such big divisions at Pans and Worlds. But as you get into like the brown and black, especially if you're in the higher level in the division, if you kind of like know who the big guys are that you're going to have to fight, then you can kind of scope them out more. It's actually much easier that way too. Like sometimes you can fight guys and like, their guard, guys who have like such a dangerous guard sometimes are sometimes really easy to fight because they are so predictable.
Yeah.
You can just, the exact game they're going to play, so you can really prep for it. That's really interesting because it's so, their game is so like clean and organized and sharp that you can really prepare for it. Some of the guys who are like, someone that I imagine would be really hard to fight would be like Edwin Najmi. Like when I watch him, I'm like, man, that'd be so hard to fight because he does so many wacky submissions, and it's just like, I don't know, like it would be so hard to prep for that. He's like so dangerous, so like that's the kind of person I think would be hard to prepare for.
Yeah. Can you think of somebody who you'd hopefully get a match with in the next year?
I assume I'll fight all these people probably in the Europeans, Panzer Worlds. But Marcio Andre, Gianni Grippo, one of the Meows, Mendez.
And is it sometimes when I'm trying to figure, I'm not training against guys like that or anything like that, but if I have a training partner that's good at something specific, and I could work against that, and then nobody else really does that, So if you're training specifically with one person, even if you get by that person and you get past that, is that all the time you spent training with that, it doesn't always relate over to your next opponent very well, and this, to me, that's sometimes frustrating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to just, you have a finite amount of resources, time that you can train, and you have to properly choose, you have to pick what your goal is. Then you have to properly allocate your time towards what is important. And if your goal is to win this tournament, next week, then, what you're going to focus on is going to be different than if your goal is to be the best person in the world in 3 years, if I have, but like I said, with the, at the black belt, it's easier because, you kind of know, I don't want to sound like conceited, but like you kind of know generally who the top guys in the division are.
Absolutely.
And most, of course, guys can come out of nowhere, you don't expect, and that can happen for sure. But generally, who the good guys are, so you can kind of scope that out. But I give you an example of like, when it went bad was I fought at Europeans last year, and, first match I fought a really tough guy. He put me in worm guard. I passed it. I ended up choking him. Felt really good. Next match I fought a guy I didn't really know anything about him. And he did that Kyotera ankle lock guard. And, I had vaguely, do you know the position?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's like De La Hiva, but you like do an ankle lock kind of when you hold it. It's hard to describe. If you like YouTube Kyotera ankle lock,
okay,
or De La Hiva or something, you'll probably find it.
Instead of grabbing the ankle or the pants, you're actually holding it with like your arm. I'm visualizing. Is that?
Yeah, but there's like some people will hug the leg in De La Hiva, but it's actually more. You actually like ankle lock grip it, so it's like your palm is like on your stomach.
Okay,
like you have an ankle. Okay, and then when you trap that non-De La Hiva leg, they like extend your leg and it turns into a really brutal ankle lock. So if you've never seen that before, you have no idea what it is. The first time that gets put on you, you're just like, oh, okay, I'm in De La Hiva. Oh, this is interesting. And then boom, you're in an ankle lock. So I got caught in an ankle lock, and it was just like, man, like, I feel like I'm so much better than this guy, but it was easy for me to take that loss because of my mindset. Like I didn't go like, wow, I'm just not ready for this division. I'm like, I just got submitted like in 30 seconds, I'm not ready. That's not how I took it. I took it as like, I've never seen that position before. It was a really creative, weird ankle lock. It sucks that I lost that way. I feel like I could have won that division, but it happens, the week, like 2 weeks or I don't know, a few months before I fought Gianni Grippo and lost a split decision that, I thought was a really good match. I think that video is posted online if you guys want to watch it. I spent a lot of the match trying to pass, and we each sweep each other a few times, and I have a couple of good submission attempts. It's a good match. But so it's like I feel like I'm on level with the best guys in the division. But then I lost to this guy a quick ankle lock, and he's good too. But the point is like that can happen if you don't know every position, and it just happens, and you have to make it your point to try to know every position.
Yeah, and it feels like you're coming at that from a defensive point of view. Like, you got to know it all. You don't need to be proficient in all these different positions in order to have success in jiu-jitsu. You need to, that's part of having a game plan and having some techniques that you're really well at. Kind of like that guy with the ankle lock. He probably didn't have a real good, random, like a triangle choke or something like that. But but he had that one particular technique, and it was spot on for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, from guard, you don't need to play every position because someone can't force you to play lasso. That's optional, right? On top, your job is to pass, right? So on bottom, you don't have to. Your job is to sweep, right? So top is entangling or being on bottom is entangling by nature. You're entangling the top guy, right? And then he's got to unlock your entanglement and then pass you, right? So on top, you do have to be knowledgeable of everything because you're going to encounter so many different opponents. But when you're on bottom, really, some guys get away with only having one or two sweeps, so you do have to have good recomposing, but you don't have to play every position. On top, you do though.
Yeah.
Now, I should make a note. When I go into a match, I don't just let the guy take whatever position he wants and then deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. When I go in, I'm like I said, I address everything by a case by case scenario. So let's suppose I'm on top, right? And the guy is sitting up, and no grips are made, right? So he's sitting up, and I'm standing, and there's no grips. Okay. In that case, the first battle is me trying to establish a dominant position, and him trying to establish his guard, whatever he's going to play, right? So I'm actually very good at not allowing people to get the guard they want, right? So usually I step in and try to hit a quick knee cut before they can establish a position, or I try to Toriando them before they can establish a good guard, right? I do that all the time. So a lot of times when I fight people, they don't get the guard that they want, right? But, if they do, I have an answer for it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're avoiding their game, like the mini game of avoiding their that particular guard. You're able to beat them to that.
Correct. Yeah, I can try to knee cut them before they get their lasso, and I always try, and I succeed a lot. But then if I don't, I know how to kill the lasso too, right? Yeah. So you just have to allocate your time. But the problem I think most people have is that they think that they're just going to get this really good passing and never have to worry about the lasso or something. But that's not the case. They're going to get the lasso. Just accept it and learn how to kill it.
Do you have any much interest with no gi?
I do. I think it's really cool. I like it, but I just don't ever train it because I'm just so focused on gi.
Yeah.
I just really love the gi, and I just only focus on that. So it's not that I have anything against no gi. I think it's great.
Real quick, I want to hear about how jiu-jitsu is doing it over there in Sweden or in Europe in general.
Jiu-jitsu is really good in Sweden. I think in Europe, it's like England, and then I hear Poland's really good, but I haven't visited. But I think England and Sweden and Poland are really good. Norway, you have Sebastian Broch at Frontline. I'm sure they have a few other guys. In Denmark, you have Alexander Trans, and then we talked about before. I think he's in Brazil now. He was in the UAE before. But here is a lot of really good training. When I first came here, like 2.5 years ago, I came to teach at a gym, and the guys were pretty new to competition jiu-jitsu. And there were some other gyms in the area that were good, but in the past 2.5 years, it's gotten really good. One of the guys here, Leo Groff, that I train with all the time. When he's on top, he just gives me hell. It's so hard to sweep him, do anything really. He just won the Swedish Nationals. He's one of those guys I think is completely capable of winning worlds. He's just got to get his performance right on the day. But I think I've rolled with tons of guys inside the gym and outside the gym, and his performance inside the gym is way higher than a lot of really good black belts I've rolled with. He's my main training partner here, so I'm really fortunate to have him. In addition, my friend from Finland, Henry Linderus, has got an amazing guard. a really tall guy, really flexible, and also very, very technical, very good mind for jiu-jitsu. So both of those guys are excellent. In addition, there's a lot of other good up-and-coming blue belts and purple belts I train with, Tomek and Johan and those guys. So, yeah, I think it's really good here. And I love the city here. I love Sweden. It's really nice and clean, and you can get around so easy. Everyone seems to be really polite and stuff. It's really cool.
Is there much of a cultural difference from what you were used to?
Yeah. What's really interesting is in Sweden, the first trip or first country I'd ever been to in Europe was Sweden. It was 2.5 years ago. It was the first time I ever visited Europe, and I had this kind of expectation that like Americans are kind of viewed negatively or something. And I think that a lot of people have stereotypes that we're fat and uneducated, and I think the fat thing is partially true. Fairly true, actually. If you're here, you see how many skinny people there are. Actually, in Sweden, they like really like American culture. It's like crazy. Like people in the street will have like American flag shirts and jackets and like,
wow.
Hats and stuff. It's crazy. You wouldn't expect it. And like, they all speak English incredibly well. So they, like it's easier to understand them than like a British person because their accent's more similar to American English. I think because they watch a lot of American movies and stuff. And everyone is really nice. But what's interesting is that the Swedes actually traditionally are very shy, introverted people. So like if you're on a bus, like everyone fills up, if there's 2 seats on like each side, they'll fill up one person per each 2 seats all the way down the bus until there has to be 2 people next to each other. And then like if you're like a stranger, like if you're like waiting for the elevator next to someone, like you don't talk to each other. Like people don't do that here. But if you're American, you can, because they kind of have this like expectation that like Americans are like almost obnoxiously talkative and friendly, but it's like in an endearing way. So they kind of like like it's like, if a Swedish person just talks to them while they're waiting for an elevator, they're like, this guy's weird, right? But if you do it, they're kind of like it's just an American, he doesn't know better, and then they're really open and friendly to you. So I find everyone to be like really friendly, really nice. Gothenburg I love the city. It's like super clean, super easy to get around. It's really cool.
Wow. So have you changed? For me, I assume people are friendly, from where I'm at, and I stand in line at the grocery store, I'm likely to talk to somebody, or don't treat them like strangers. Just treat them like I haven't really met you yet, and it depends on how outgoing or busy I am or whatever. But I talk to a lot of people I don't know in any given day. Have you changed your behavior? Yeah. Have you changed that a little bit, or do you just keep doing what you're used to doing?
Oh, I just keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah, and I think the people here really like it. I think they more accept it because you're American. If you're Swedish and you do that, they think you're crazy. But if you're American and do it, it's fine. So I just keep doing it because I've always been that way. I know, I think Americans are kind of like, we have that reputation as being very social. And my girlfriend's from France, and I know when she came to America the first time, she was very surprised at just how talkative and friendly people were. I think that, there's a lot of pros and cons with like Europe and America and stuff, but something I can say from traveling a lot, that I do have a bigger appreciation for how nice Americans are, like generally. Like if you just go when I was traveling across the country with my girlfriend from France, I mean, we'd be in like redneck middle of nowhere. Anytime we go in a gas station or something, person there is like, oh, where are you from? And they just want to know more, and they're all super nice and polite. And I think, a lot of people from Europe who have kind of like a preconceived negative notion about Americans, for most of the Americans or the Europeans I've talked to, when they go to the States, they're kind of like, shocked at how nice everyone is, and are kind of like, wow, I didn't really realize everyone was that nice.
I think we're meaner on the internet than we are in person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The movies don't help either, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But I like how you haven't changed change with your style, your social style, and that who you are is accepted over there, and they just kind of, he's an American, that's who he is. He's going to talk to people he doesn't know.
I think my eating manners have improved a little bit. I think I never even like processed that before. Like really, it's just I felt like the first time I came here, I really felt like a caveman. Like for example, eating like always with a fork and a knife. Like I don't know if that maybe I just like had a weird upbringing or something, but I feel like you have a fork and a knife, but like really using the knife as like a tool to really help like with your eating, like all the time. Like it's a second hand, basically, right?
Like it's two utensils, not
you're
one.
Using your, say again?
It's like you're not just cutting with the knife; you're using it to help you.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I never did that. Like it's so obvious to me now. It's like when you're trying to scoop something up with a fork and like you can't get it. The knife is an assistant, right? You use the knife to help scoop it, and then you can clean your plate real easy. But I would just like I would just keep trying to dig at it, and then I might like sneak my finger in and like poke something, and like, and oh my god, like I was eating with my girlfriend in France, like with her family, and like it's just like they're raised that way, so they all have really good like etiquette eating at the table, and like I just don't even recognize like that I'm like bad at it. And then like once you recognize you're bad at it, it's like you're trying not to, but it's like you don't even know how to like eat. Like you're just messing it up. Oh my god!
I love it. It's like the like one of those movies, Meet the Parents, where you're being really evaluated. You don't like that already. It's tougher, and you want to do well, and you don't even know what to do. And the knife idea is that's different. I don't do that. And hey, sometimes I'm in Kansas. I don't even plates are sometimes optional.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know. It was really funny. My girlfriend's aunt and uncle visited us while we were in Atlanta, and they live in Paris, and they have like a really nice apartment or a really nice area. They're like very cool, like a very like sophisticated like Paris couple, like very, very cool. And, we have those like little, fold out trays that you can put in front of you when you sit on the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So you're watching TV, but you want to eat at the same time. So you have like a little fold out, tray thing that like you can kind of put out there so you can put your food on it and watch TV and eat at the same time.
Sure.
It's kind of like redneck looking, but it's really, really useful. And like, at first I think there was this kind of like, what is this? Like, I just kind of almost like a, like this, that doesn't look good kind of thing. But like after they start using it, it's like, okay, this is awesome. So, but I have to say, from being in France though, I feel like Americans have a lot of, negative image of like French as being rude or something, but like maybe more so in Paris. But my experience in Annecy, where my girlfriend's from, which is more of a small town, it's everyone's like incredibly nice and polite. So I have to say that though.
Yeah, it sounded like from the beginning of the interview you're planning on doing more traveling. You're not you're gonna go back to the U.S. and do some training, and then maybe go back to Europe. I'm going to go to the U.S. for a little bit. I'm going to train with Ryan Hall for a week or two and really try to work on my 50-50 because I feel like that's a weak spot for me. And I know he's like one of the best at that position and knows it very well. So I'm going to go train with him. In addition, he's a very good teacher. I feel like he breaks things down very well. So I'm going to work with him on that. Then I was going to try to visit New York for a little bit and maybe train at Alliance New York or possibly go visit Unity for a little bit. And then planning on coming back to Europe and, just trying to figure it out. Maybe go to Sweden again for a little bit. And I'm trying to maybe get something set up to be here for like long term for a year, but not really sure how everything's going to work out yet. So, but just figuring it out. Right now I'm just traveling and training and then really focusing on my conditioning and strength training. Wow. It sounds like you're going to train with Ryan Hall to work on a specific mini game that you anticipate maybe having some trouble with, and you're going to get the best help you can. And so when you're there.
Exactly. And I would say that kind of like strongly influences like my training thoughts. It's like if I have good training partners at home or like my home location, I can do most of what I need. But then like there's certain things that's like you just need to go seek out help, and it's like, like why would I sit there and try to reinvent the wheel with the 50-50 when I can just try to go to someone who's really an expert on it and have them help me, and, do what I can to help them too, but that just makes sense, and then if I need to go try to brush up on, my spider guard sweeps, I could go train with Michael Lange, he's in Brazil, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, you do 95% of training with the people you have with you, and then if you need to work a few things that you feel that need a little extra, and that's what you're going to go out and do. The percents may be off, but that's basically what's happening.
Exactly.
How could somebody keep up with you and follow you and what you're doing and when you're competing next?
I have a Facebook fan page. I need to update it since I was in France for a while. I wasn't training much, so everything kind of got out of whack, but I'll be posting stuff on there soon. So the Facebook fan page is Jonathan Macahan Thomas BJJ.
You feel good about anything else you want to talk about, or any other topics?
Loosely, I'm doing a lot of strength training, but I'm not doing weights. I'm doing gymnastics for strength, which I think is pretty cool.
Is it more like body weight stuff?
Yeah, it's body weight. So I did it for a while before I injured my back. I think I probably talked about that before I, hurt my back for like a year and a half. It was really good. I felt like I was getting really strong. But basically, it's just doing strength training. Like, normally when you do strength training, you do like heavy weight and you do like, reps of like, 5 to 8, usually not more than 8.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu, you see them doing like again, it's kind of like the anaerobic aerobic thing, but like you see guys doing stuff like, like you watch the videos of like the Brazilian guys doing like all these like wacky workouts with like cords and like jumping and like gas masks and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you don't really build strength doing like, high repetition intense stuff, right? You build strength by doing maximal effort with like 5 to 8 reps, right? I think strength training is really important because that's like the baseline for everything you do. Like if I tell you to do, push-ups from your knees, right? You'll probably be able to do a lot of push-ups from your knees because you're so strong that you can do regular push-ups, right? So if you want to have a muscle endurance in competition, you need to have a good baseline strength level, right? That's going to make your overall muscle endurance good. So you need to be building strength mostly in the off season. And then when you get closer to tournament time, you switch to more like high intensity, high rep, stuff to build the muscle endurance or the explosion, But I find a lot of people are just always trying to do like, these like, like in the off season, they're doing like, high repetition things with like, these like, circuit training and things like that. But circuit training isn't building strength. Circuit training is like getting your muscles more explosive or building more endurance, and like, working your anaerobic system, but it's not like building permanent strength. That stuff's not permanent, right? Strength is something that you want to build over a long period of time in the off season. And then when you get closer to tournament time, you do the high intensity stuff and you max out your capability for that tournament. After the tournament's over, you go back to strength building. So what I'm doing is instead of doing weights, I do body weight stuff. So, but once you can do a push up, you can't make it any heavier, right?
Yeah.
So when you do body weight stuff, you decrease the leverage you can use. So, you basically use less muscles to do a similar exercise. So you get to the point that like with weights, say you do like a bench press, you use your chest, you use your triceps and your shoulders, so you have a bunch of muscles working together to lift a heavy weight. So in gymnastics, you train to make just one muscle capable of lifting your entire body weight. So that's why when you watch like an Olympic gymnast, they're capable of doing things that we can't even comprehend, like doing a push-up without your feet touching the floor, for example. Think about that. Like you're like Superman, just your hands touching the floor and you can do a push-up, right? The level of strength required to do that is like unbelievable, right? So, and to me, it's much more functional for jiu-jitsu because, you're not moving heavy weights in jiu-jitsu. Usually you're moving yourself. So I just think since I've been doing it, I feel great.
Wow, that's cool. That's a first, I think, for me that somebody's doing that and it's giving you good results. And maybe we'll see you on the gymnastics mat someday doing a routine. Is that likely?
A good book recommendation for that is Defying Gravity, by the way.
Okay, cool. We'll have to look at that.
Say gymnastics. Yeah. Pretty much that, I think.
Cool. Well, that's it sounds like a simple way to work out. Maybe simple is not the right word, but you don't need a bunch of equipment. You don't need to really go to some fancy place. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say though for legs, you still need to do like squats and deadlifts. Though it's kind of hard to emulate that with body weight. But upper body, I think you can do it all body weight.
Cool. That's interesting weight training or strength training advice. So, my doorbell's ringing. That's fun.
Right, cool.
I'll let you go. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you sitting down and talking to me this long.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. That wraps up our interview with Jonathan Thomas. That was a 2-part interview, as we mentioned before. Part 1 was the episode before. And then if you want more, the episode we interviewed him a long time ago, I think well over a year ago, there'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. Go there and listen to that if you haven't caught that already. Very insightful. I really appreciate him coming on here and sharing his wisdom and some of his current thoughts about jiu-jitsu and training and just development in your game. So I expect him back sometime, and we look forward to hearing from him in the future. But also get to his Facebook page and like it and keep up with him. He's always on the move and always into new things. So that's good.
And we have talked about this before, but we always like you to go on and let us know how we're doing. You can go on to iTunes, give us a review. We like 5-star reviews, but give us what you think we deserve. If you make it funny, we will give you a gi patch. So if you give us a funny review, we want to send you out a gi patch. It's just like our little logo with Byron smashing a brick into my face, which is never fun. But we've got a little gi patch like that. So we'll send that out to you. If you live in the United States, totally free. We don't have enough money to send it to anybody who doesn't live outside of the United States, so we apologize for that. But once you do the review, send us an email because we need to know who sent us the review. Give us your address and we'll get it out to you. Our email address is bjjbrick@gmail.com, or go on to our Facebook page, like us on Facebook, and send us a message there. Let us know, and we'll definitely gladly get that out to you.
Yep, it's always fun to read those reviews as they come in and to get that little pat on the back.
Yeah, and we'll probably even read your review on the air, so we always like doing that. But also, do not miss next week. Next week's show, all the way from Australia, we have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt John Will. And we wish we could have went to Australia and interviewed him in person, but Byron did it over the phone, so too bad we didn't get to go. But an awesome interview. He really talks about teaching, how to treat students. And one thing I really like, too, is he's talking about seminars, how to get the most out of them, and also how to give a good seminar. So we got a lot of great information in store for next week.
Yeah. I think a lot of our content is really geared towards the student. We're all students, even the teachers and coaches, but really geared towards the person who's learning about jiu-jitsu fairly early on, not necessarily, but it seems like a lot of the questions we asked in interviews kind of gear that way. But this interview with John Will be excellent for those students, and it even transcends that level. It goes to, if you're a coach, if you go around and teach seminars, this interview could really help out your ability to teach and to influence your students and to lead your team. So really a different interview, tons of great information, and it would have been worth the flight out there hadn't it already have happened over Skype. So Gary, we alluded to this before. Halloween is around the corner for a lot of the people listening to this. A lot of them, it's already over. So, but the people who have caught the episode soon after it came out, they're getting ready for Halloween. So I think that's one of the reasons why you made this audiobook that you did.
Yeah, definitely. I always want to, help the Halloweeners. So that's why I've made this audiobook.
Do you want to know the title of your book?
I would like to know that so I can really figure out why I made this book.
Yeah. Zombies to the left of me, clowns to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Man, now that could be my best book ever. And really, what it's about walking the straight and narrow. You know, I've got zombies to the left of me, clowns to the right. And it's easy to get off task. When I'm trying to become better at jiu-jitsu, I've got to block out the distractions. I've got to block out the zombies. I've got to block out the clowns. I have to stay completely on task and have fun if I want to get better. So I'm going to walk that straight and narrow. That's what it's about.
Yeah. What is more scary, a zombie or a clown?
You know, Byron, I'm walking straight down the middle of the aisle. I'm not going to let either of those affect me and make me scared. I'm going to focus all my intensity on getting better at jiu-jitsu. So I'm not even going to let either of them scare me.
But, okay, on Halloween night, are you focused on the candy ahead?
To be honest, Halloween night, if you're asking me about zombies or you're asking me about clowns,
yeah.
Byron, what kind of grappler am I? Byron, I like to take people's legs home.
That's true.
Clowns wear big clown shoes.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to have a field day with that. I mean, do not wear clown shoes to a leg lock party. So I'd have to say I'm a little more scared of zombies than I am of clowns.
And the clown is probably a little less likely to bite you. I'm not for sure that the clown won't bite you, but yeah, that foot. I remember back in the day in the early UFC when they would wear shoes.
Yeah,
everyone would be like, "It's so much easier to leg lock them with shoes on," and the wrestlers were like, "I don't care, I'm wearing them anyway." And there was that big debate, but now they can't wear them. But I just imagine that big old clown shoe, and then the zombie may not even have an entire foot left.
And the problem is, you twist that zombie's leg, it's just going to fall off. And the bad thing is, it's going to fall off. He's going to fall on top of you, and there's a better chance he's going to bite you.
So the leg lock is infected. So maybe a leg lock would work if you're trying to get a quick escape. So you get entangled in 50-50, finish the leg lock and the heel hook, snap it off clean. That disentangles you, and you're able to run.
And then you're out of there. And then he can't catch up to you because he can't walk.
But the clown, that you're going to be able to lock in that heel hook or toe hold from anywhere. I mean, that's just the easiest thing.
And you also think, let's say you got his back. Even if he's tucking his chin, that nose is like a freaking rubber ball. I can just put my hand under, my arm underneath that nose and open his chin up, finish that choke. So, there's a lot of disadvantages, anatomically speaking, with a clown.
Yeah. The nose reminds me of that Mr. Miyagi nose honk.
Yeah. We got to see if we can get Mr. Miyagi on an episode.
I think Mr. Miyagi is no longer with us, Gary.
Maybe Danielson?
Danielson would be cool.
Yeah.
We could probably, we'll see about that. I will send him an email. But
what about Johnny Lawrence?
Johnny Lawrence, I've been trying to get a hold of him quite a bit.
Okay.
I'll get on Danielson's and watch him be on, and then I'll have teased about it. But that'd be fun. I'll send him an email, and I'll never hear from him again. So that's how it goes a lot of times, but that's how it just keep on going, man.
Yeah. So even if you're not a clown, if you're not a zombie, or even if you are either one of those, and you happen to be in the Midwest, let us know. We're here in Wichita, Kansas. If you happen to be passing through the area, if you happen to come in here for work for a week, you have friends, you're here for vacation, visiting somebody for a wedding, give us a holler. Let us know. We'd love to train with you. BjjBrick@gmail.com or send us a message on Facebook. We'd love to train with you.
Yeah, we'll train with you. We'll tell you where to eat, where not to eat. We'll tell you where the good barbecue and where the good Thai food is and the good pizza place. Right, Gary?
You got it.
We'll treat you right. As always, my friends, brush your teeth and eat your vegetables.
And stay sweaty.
Just see how you react to that one.
I remember. And don't forget to shower.
So let's redo that because I was messing with you.
That was good.
As always, now my throat's all messed up. That's what I get for messing with the ending. Huh?
Yeah.
I need to brush my teeth and eat more vegetables. As always, don't forget. As always, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.